Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. This is a new channel that I have created, just kind of on a whim, and mainly my channel is going to be probably Sims 3 building content. I grew up playing Sims 3. I never really did Sims 2 other than like on some console, but Sims 3 was a huge part of my childhood, and I grew up watching everyone and anyone play and build in The Sims 3. I would come home from school and watch hours upon hours, and hopefully they had uploaded so I could see the next iteration of a Sim Supply build or a Deligracy build or decorating and or Life Simmers LPs that the community still talks about and like kind of geeks over, which I was a part of all of that, and it was awesome. And I know I'm not the only one who feels a little like disappointed with The Sims 4. And when Sims 4 first came out, I was really, really excited. I watched all the trailers and all the, I don't know if they were called game changers back then, but anyone that got their hands on it first that was willing to kind of give reviews of things, I watched and was excited and was a little like, oh, the style's different, but it's going to be okay. Like, it's going to be an awesome game, and there's so much more you can do. And I remember they really showed us like the building and all that, and like you can do so much. You can pick up a whole house and just move it, which like the Sims 3 could never. And so I was just really, really excited. And so when it came out, I bought it. I bought the first couple of expansion packs or whatever they were called for Sims 4. I don't even remember if they had a different name when it first started, but like outdoor retreat and get to work and get together. And those were really awesome. And it was cool that it's like, oh, it's closed world, but now we have a vacation world for outdoor retreat. And um, I was excited and played quite a bit. I was excited to build. I remember I'd be in the car and I'd see a house that was unique on the side of the road, and I was like, "Oh, I could build that in The Sims 4 like so easily. We could do it. It'd be awesome." And I played for a long time, and then um I kept going back to The Sims 3, and I have a feeling it's because similar reasons everyone else, because there's just a lot more creativity there, or maybe I'm just not very creative, and so Sims 4, it kind of stagnated for me and it became repetitive, and there's only so much that you can do, and then it just kind of fell off from there for me. And um, I have the same opinions that a lot of people in the Sims community have on The Sims 4 and different packs, and I could do a whole video talking about each of the packs and what I like and dislike about them, but that would take forever. And so the whole moral of the story is that I just enjoy The Sims 3 a lot better. And not until recently, I kind of not only didn't enjoy playing The Sims 4 personally anymore, it just kind of wasn't my game anymore, and that's okay. And I also kind of stopped watching the content that went along with it on YouTube, and um, I'm still subbed to all the same people that I was subbed to before, and I try to watch their things every once in a while, and I don't think it's their fault. I think they're very talented at what they do and very entertaining. I just think that the game for me is not entertaining anymore, and so I stopped watching. And there were a few times, I think, well, actually, a couple of years ago, I remembered that James Turner, the Sim Supply back then, or it might even have been Flubbaliki, I'm not even sure. It was so long ago, but um, had done like a create a world, and I didn't know that was a thing, and I was so stoked. And so I remembered and went back and rewatched his create a world of a Luna Island, and um, was just enthralled. And so I was like, well, I don't have like the best setup, but I want to see if I can do that. And so I ended up creating a world, and I watched a ton of videos and even read the little like manual online that kind of walks you through step by step what you need to do to make sure that your world is playable and usable. And um, I was kind of mortified that I would ruin my game somehow, and uh, just wanted to make sure I did it correctly. And so I created a world, and I kind of made like a old American South coastal town, but it has mountains and a coast, and so it's very unrealistic. But because I'm from a similar area from the valleys in the south, so it's like, or the foothills, I guess, it made sense. And I know what the trees look like, and I know what the forests look like, and I know what the coasts kind of look like, and what vibe I was going for. So I built one, and was just it was so much fun. And I could make it however I wanted it. I could put every tree where I wanted it, every stoplight, every trash can, every street light, and it was just super fun. And as I'm building, I could like create the story that the old money in the town was up here, and it just like I was creating my own lore, which I know is a huge complaint about The Sims 4, where it's just like you have to create it yourself, and that takes a long time, and it's very tedious. And I think in The Sims 3, in Create a World, and in just playing and building in general, it is a good balance of like what you can do yourself and what you don't have to do yourself. And um, I just if there was something that I could have done something similar in The Sims 4, I don't think it would have been nearly as fun or entertaining, and that's just my opinion. And a lot of people love The Sims 4, and that's great, and I'm glad that they are enjoying a game that they spent money on, and that's good for you. But I have decided to kind of not do Sims 4 anymore and just go back to Sims 3. And it wasn't up until recently I had a horrible computer, and when I was a teenager, I would like beg my brother to help me with the computer so it would be better, so it would at least run. And um, you know it's a good sign when you still want to play the game even though it crashes every 20 minutes or anytime you're on 3 times speed and you go to the world view or whatever. You know it's a good game when you still want to load it back up, even though it's frustrating and you're like, oh man, I didn't save, and you have to go back in. But recently, I have a decent computer. By no means is it a gaming computer or anything that would run The Sims 3 smoothly. And I know that there are some like big YouTubers that have gone back to run The Sims 3 and they still complain that the load times are crazy. And so I don't think spending a bunch of money on a big computer that would run it smoothly is even really worth it, because I have one that runs it okay right now. I don't have the best settings turned all the way up. Soon in this speed build, something starts happening with my reflections and mirrors and textures, and so I had to go through and kind of, yeah, you can see it on that mantle mirror right there, that everything like starts to turn blue when I start putting the windows in and things. And so I have to go through and fix that in my settings and restart the game. But yeah, there. I was like, why are these windows blue? I turned them black and it didn't matter. And finally realized, but it took me a little while, so sorry about that. Um, but yeah, so I got a decent computer and was playing and creating a world a couple years back, and it really didn't take me as long as I thought it was going to, and so that was kind of encouraging that I actually finished it and played in it and it was playable. And the only thing I'm not good at is like I would create storylines and I would create Sims to like fill the town and have ideas of like what I wanted them to do for a job and who they were gonna marry or live with and who were their neighbors. And then like I had story progression on and it would tell me that they just like moved, they divorced their husbands, they're quit their job and are working somewhere else. And I was just kind of like, well, that's okay. I'm sure there's story progression things and settings that I could create and kind of micromanage that to make sure that they all stay where they're supposed to make the story correct. But that's okay. I'm not that obsessed with it to make it perfect. But anyways, so I created my world, and back then I really wasn't sure how to film that or turn it into something crazy, and I didn't even know if it was going to be successful. Like I said, I was afraid I was going to put the world in my game and my game was going to be ruined, and that I didn't want to have to film that and worry about that on top of that. Um, so yeah, the world that I'm building this house in is my world. I've opened up a new save, so I can kind of just bulldoze everything. There's no Sims in the town, and the lot I'm on is the biggest lot in the town, and it's up on top of the mountain, and it kind of like looks out over the town. and that's supposed to be the Whitby family. And they are the ones that kind of settled the town. They're the old money name, and so they have like the big home up on the mountain. And I've actually bulldozed their lot, and a lot of the lots, I filled the town with, or the world with. I kind of just got those off of the exchange or whatever it's called. I don't even know what it's called. The gallery, but it's not a gallery. Um, and that's another thing. Sims 3 would be unstoppable if it had some of the aspects that Sims 4 does. Like the gallery for Sims 4, even though it never loaded for me and it was really laggy, it was so nice to just be able to go on quickly, um, and have like an online mode where you could use other people's things, because in the Sims 3 it's so hard, and if there's any custom content in their houses, it like breaks your game sometimes. Uh and that may be user error. Again, I'm not the an expert on all of these things, but so yeah. So there's kind of like a zoomed out version of the town. It was very quick, but maybe one day I'll give like an actual tour of the entire world that I built, because I'm actually really, really proud of it and I play in it quite frequently. Um, but yeah, so I had watched James build a world, and I started getting kind of bored of watching Sims 4 content. Not from somebody specific. Like it wasn't just one or two channels. It was almost all of them, and I think that's saying a lot, because the channels don't all do the same thing. Like there's definitely YouTubers who have similar lanes that they kind of go down. Like people do let's plays, people do challenges, people just do builds in general, and um, but I just kind of got bored with all of it. It felt like I was watching the same thing over and over, and again, that's not that those people's fault. Like they are playing the game that they have, and if they're enjoying it, then that's awesome, and I'm glad that they're able to make videos and kind of benefit from them having fun. I think that's really cool, like in our generation. But I was bored, and I remember, actually, I don't know if it was a specific video I was watching, and I don't even remember who it was really, but it sparked the memory of Create a World. It may have been that modding Create a World tool type thing that came out for The Sims 4, and people were doing reviews of it, and everybody's minds were kind of blown, and even mine, because I was like, oh, finally, like there's some customization here, and the open world mods and things, and it reminded me of Sims 3 Create a World, and I was so pumped, and I was like, oh man, I hope this sparks other people to go back to The Sims 3 and create more worlds or create more builds and challenges and things. And I got to thinking about it, and I was like, well, why don't I do that? I know that if my favorite YouTubers right now that were doing mainly Sims content, you can see I'm struggling with the roof here. It took me a while. I debated cutting this part out, because the roof of the house that I had inspiration from is very confusing and technical and very A-frame and vaulted ceilings, and that's kind of hard to do in The Sims 3. So I took inspiration. It's very loose, and it takes me a while to figure it out. And granted, I haven't built in The Sims 3 in quite a while, so roofing in The Sims 3 is definitely harder, so bear with me there. I fix it eventually. I get there in the end. It just takes me a minute. Um, but anyways, so I'm like, why don't I build in The Sims 3? I know if somebody else in the community started doing Sims 3 content, and every once in a while they do, like people will compare all four Sims games, or build the same house in all four Sims games, kind of thing. Like that type of stuff was super popular for me. Like I loved watching it because it is nostalgic. You get to go back and look at all the old games and reminisce. And I think from what I see in the community, the consensus is The Sims 3, everybody kind of has a love-hate relationship with it. Like, they hate playing it because it's laggy and it crashes a lot and different things like that, but also it has a special place like in their heart because they grew up playing it. Um, but yeah, so I decided that, hey, I would enjoy if people were putting out Sims 3 content still, and I would watch it. Maybe there's other people that will, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe nobody wants Sims 3 content. Maybe it's been done and everybody's kind of over it, but I enjoy these types of videos, and so I'm going to do them for my sake, just because I enjoy building and I have fun and like being creative, and hopefully people will like to watch it, and it may give somebody else who's in a similar situation as me, or has a similar opinion as me, that gives them something else to watch, because I feel like I was kind of getting off of the Sims train there for a while, because I was getting burnt out, playing and consuming the stuff. And I could get into a whole hour-long conversation about EA and business practices and kits and Sims 4 and those types of things, but I feel like everything's kind of been said about a lot of that. And um, again, if people like that and they enjoy that game, then that's awesome, and I'm happy for them. But I was not one of those people anymore. But so this is the first build of hopefully many. Hopefully, I will um, continue to play and upload. And again, the quality may not be the best. I'm not working with the best equipment in the world and the best mic. And um, even as I'm building this house and I was going back and watching the footage, um, the more I put, you can tell that my game starts to lag quite a bit and it gets a little messy. But you can see me here. I've used constrained floor elevation in this house because of the staircase. The staircase had a landing. Um, it's actually more of like a curved staircase. I don't really know how to explain it. And would probably be easy to do in The Sims 4, but The Sims 3 doesn't have all of the building type things that Sims 4 does. However, we can constrain floor elevate, I guess would be the term to use to describe what you're doing. And I remember when I learned how to do this, I was like maybe 12 or 13 and was super excited. I watched all the tutorials, and it took me forever building this house to remember how exactly it works, because you're building like one level, but that one level technically has two separate sub levels in it. And so, like, the first floor of this house has technically two sets of walls where the landing is. And if you know constrained floor elevation, you're like, well, duh, we get it. But some people still may not know what that is, or it may be like, for me, it was a old concept, and took me my brain a little bit of time to figure out what exactly I was doing. And you can tell that I will put a door in, and then I'll mess with the floors, and then I have to fix the door again, and then I have to fix the windows again, and I have to fix the doors again, and it just becomes a big process. And I remember when I first started learning how to manipulate those types of things, I was in the same boat. Like, I would constantly have to go back and fix different stuff. And the more you do it, the better you get at those types of things. And again, sorry if the camera like jerks around a lot and everything. I'm first build back after a while, and the more I do it, the better I'll be about kind of not being less spastic and flipping all over the place with my camera. And again, for some people, these lights probably stress you out, and I'm very sorry. They were stressing me out too, but I forgot with constrained floor elevation, the first floor technically has no light, and so you get these Bidebug lights, which took me forever to find, but I found them, and I just loaded them everywhere so I would be able to see. I do eventually go back in and start to organize them a bit better so they're not so crazy in your face because you can't really see. But I realized I had those like island paradise stairs, and they have like it's called like a kickboard, I guess, or the backboard of the stair. It's not the part you step on. It's the part that rises up each level of the stair kind of thing. They were different colors, and I was really hoping it would let me go back in and customize those a bit more, but I could not. So I went back and changed those stairs to a different wooden one. This house, like I said, has a lot of vaulted ceilings, and it's very unique on the inside. It has columns in the living room and like exposed banisters and things like that, and didn't really know how to accomplish that in The Sims 3 as easily. And again, with constrained floor elevation, by the time I kind of got it furnished somewhat of what it looked like in the pictures, I was kind of over it. And also, you can see me looking here for a fireplace. This house has a beautiful rock, like handmade rock fireplace that's just ginormous, and the shape of the chimney here in The Sims 3 kind of captures that like shape of it like going up, but you can't customize the chimney texture, like the red brick texture. I wish you could, because then I could have probably gotten a little bit closer. And that's another thing I struggle with in The Sims 3. I love their rock textures. There's a few specifically. I don't think that fireplace stays that color. I change it eventually, in texture. And they're beautiful, but if it's like, oh, it's too much of a warm red color, or that one gray is too purpley, like you try to change it and then it all of a sudden looks horrible. And the more I mess with it, the uglier the rocks get, and I just struggled. Even the ones on the outside, you can see I put them on the foundation level and then the sub floor of the first level, just because that's how the house kind of looked. It has like a bigger rock foundation like that. You can see the pattern like repeat over and over and over, and that was kind of a disappointment to people back in Sims 3 days, that rock textures repeat too many times. And um but yeah, so I had to take a few liberties with the outside of the house and the staircase and things like that, and how big things are. Like the kitchen is not this big in real life. It's actually much smaller and more compact, but that's hard to do proportionally with um, The Sims 3 and any Sims game really. Like I've tried to build my real house in The Sims 4 before just for fun, and it was really hard because in real life you have like not half walls, meaning like cut in half at the middle, like horizontally, like half walls cut vertically, like little jut outs and things like that. And that's just not, you can't do that in The Sims. You have to use a whole tile or more. And I find, you'll see in a minute, I'm doing the kitchen, and this kitchen has built-in like really tall cabinets, which The Sims 4 kind of has. Its versions of the different cabinet heights and drawer types and things like that. Um, the Sims 3 does not have that. And if they do, I know it doesn't have like the counter options, but I don't think they have any type of um, built-ins or anything like that for a kitchen or entertainment system, anything. So you'll see in just a minute when I finally figure out how to do this island here that I used refrigerators and I just retextured them. So that's the good thing about Sims 3. Everybody loves create a style. And it does come in handy. Yeah, you can see I'm trying to get bookshelves, and I even try like display cabinets, I think, at one point, and then I'm like, you know what? Refrigerators are gonna work because that's kind of how it is. And again, to get the staircase the way I wanted it, I had to make this first story extra tall, pretty much. It's like an extra couple of tiles high. And in the house, it's not that big. So the kitchen actually is A-frame, or like has an A-frame sloped vaulted ceiling, and so it's not this tall. So these almost go to ceiling height, these refrigerators would technically, but I took a lot of liberties and did the best that I could, and I ended up having to make a decision if I wanted this house to be like playable or not. One, constrained floor elevation can make routing pretty messy sometimes, and move objects can make it messy. And um, but in the real house, there's like a one tile, quote unquote, tile wide archway from the kitchen to the other parts of the house. And in The Sims, you have that, but then I have that desk there beside the refrigerator that has a chair. But in The Sims, you can't necessarily push the chair under, but people would normally walk around that, but Sims can not really. And it has a built-in oven into the cabinets, and then the stove top is like part of the island. And The Sims 4 got that, or maybe it was custom content, I'm not sure. But in The Sims 3, that doesn't exist again. So I cheated and put them through with move objects, and just kind of decided in that moment that that's okay if the house isn't actually playable. This is just one that I'm kind of experimenting with and getting back in the swing of building. And again, the house is furnished, and so I'm kind of doing inspiration from pictures, and it has like a very old, like unique style. And a lot of older houses don't necessarily have like matching wood tones all over the place, and I think that's kind of beautiful and what makes it like unique. And here you can see me trying to do the columns, and then I realized it was going to mess up the whole constrained floor elevation stuff, so I just didn't mess with it. But there should be two columns. That couch, white couch, kind of sits inside but also in front of two columns that kind of separate the dining area from the living area. And the dining chairs, they probably look kind of ugly. They're a wicker weave material, But the dining chairs in the house are actually really beautiful. They're like a rattan. I don't know if that's what you call it, but it's like the caning on the back of a chair that's like come back into style. It's very beachy and um, it's beautiful. They don't have that in The Sims 3, so I just tried to take like a wicker texture with a chair that had holes in the back and kind of create that texture myself. And but it's okay. Again, I'm just trying to capture like the essence of it all. And you can see now I'm redoing the fireplace, and this fireplace is kind of modern for the house, but again, I'm kind of just using what I've got and capturing the essence of the entire place. And um, I love all the different little pieces of like little what are they called, nightstands or end tables and little chairs tucked away, and kind of just inspired this whole thing. And there's real ornate furniture and beautiful desks and trunks like I just put down, and kind of just going through and finding different things to decorate with without making it feel super cluttered, again for routing reasons. And didn't want to mess any of that up. Even though I knew it wasn't going to be a playable house, I still didn't want it to become a little bit ridiculous. And in The Sims 4, I loved watching. There was a few challenges. I don't even remember what they were called. I think one of them was building houses, or each room is a different pack, and so like the person would roll the dice, and it would say you have to make a bedroom out of the garden stuff, romantic garden pack or whatever from Sims 4, and they're having to use like the bushes as a bed because the garden pack didn't come with a bed or a dresser, that type of thing. And a few of them just became so outrageous, but it was so entertaining to like watch them try to figure out a way to make it work and to make it look good. And so I was trying to balance that in this house. Like, do I want it to be ridiculous where I've put cabinets through the stove in the kitchen to make it look like the stove is built in or the oven's built in? And how far do I want to take it without it kind of getting outrageous? And don't get me wrong, like those videos are hilarious and fun to watch and very entertaining, but that wasn't necessarily what I was going for here. And even if I was, if you don't have the option to raise things up like you do in The Sims 4, you can take any object and make it smaller or bigger or rotate it and pick it up and down wherever it stands. And so even though I The Sims 4 gets a lot of flack, and I even have given it a lot of flack just in the last couple minutes, it still has some redeeming qualities that, again, The Sims 3 would be absolutely unstoppable if it had those few qualities that The Sims 4 does have. So I started building this house, and didn't really know where to start, so I just kind of put out a big square of foundation and was like, well, I'll just build around that, and if I need to delete it later, I will, which I just did. And you saw it mess up the floor, so of course I had to go back and fix the floor. But I couldn't just pick up the whole house and move it if I needed to, so that would have been handy. Like in The Sims 4, you're just like, oh, I didn't leave enough room for a driveway? That's cool, just pick it up and move it somewhere else, which, if I knew how to edit, I would insert the SpongeBob clip of Patrick saying we'll pick up the town and push it somewhere else, because that's what you're doing in The Sims 4, but I'm not that good, and I'm not even going to try. This is completely mediocre Sims playing at this point and videoing. But yeah, I'm working on the foyer here. Completely forgot while I was building the house that this foyer has windows pretty much all where I'm sticking that shelf, and I realized that in just a minute and fixed that. And the house, like I said, is A-frame in certain areas, and so it has those like real beautiful windows that fit into the roof line, and I don't think either game has that. I don't know if Sims 2 maybe had something like that. I've seen custom content a long time ago for Sims 3 where you could download them, but they're only in certain pitches, like the window itself. Like you might have a triangular window that's supposed to fit in the roof pitch, but like there's only one set pitch of roof. So if you wanted your roof to change to a narrower pitch or a steeper pitch, I don't even know if I'm using the word pitch anymore correctly because I've said it so much, the window wouldn't fit in that roof anymore. And so I'll look into that and see, but this house has those, especially in the living room. And I kind of, again, just trying to get the vibe of the big windows and lots of sunlight by just overlapping those couple of windows where I could. And the great thing about this house and why I think it's so charming is that some parts are um, somewhat modern and new, and there's pocket doors and there's exposed rafter beams and things like that people are starting to like put in newer houses because this house isn't new. Um, there's still some things about it that are like, oh, I can tell that this house is a little bit dated because that bathroom has a teal blue countertop, and I just think that's super neat and kind of charming. And I didn't want to change it. I also thought about building this house and creating it of like if I had this house, how would I like change the inside of it because the architecture is just beautiful in general. And but would I want to paint this room a different color? And because trust me, the house is mainly beige and white, but it's it was a decision I made to just kind of honor the color of it to start with and not change too much about it. And when you're building from an actual reference of a house, and either from pictures or from a place that you've lived or stayed or whatever it may be, and you're trying to match it, it's extremely difficult because houses have closets, houses have little alcoves and different things, and it's not easy to mimic those things without them becoming so big and bulky and taking up space. And I stole, I guess it was James Turner's Sim Supplies trick, but he probably saw somebody else do it, or it may just be a common thing back in the day when, like, if you're not using a space in a house, you paint everything black so, like, the player knows that that space is, like, kind of off limits or not usable. You're not gonna play and live in there, and that's cool. But, I don't know if it showed, it kind of went by pretty fast. But yeah, you see that little neat window up there. Like, it's a different kind of window on the house, but it has neat little things like that that are just super cool. But at the top of the stairs, like if you were to walk up these stairs in real life, you can look out. There's a tiny little balcony, and I think I in the screenshots at the very end I have a picture of it. There's like a little balcony that juts out next to the fireplace that you look out. Yeah, you can see it there. You look out over the living room, and it's super neat. And you could put like a little desk there or like a little reading nook, whatever it may be. And here I am again trying to figure out the lighting. And even after I've messed with it and it's very tedious, messed with it, um, you can still see that there's shadows that don't quite line up on the levels. And if I had the patience and the time, I would actually sit and try to figure it out. But I think sometimes even if you were to try to match it perfectly and do it perfectly, it would glitch out. Like I've had a lot of lighting glitches happening, and like I said, with that the mirrors and reflections for some reason reflecting blue, even though my reflection option was turned up pretty high, it still something wasn't right. So I changed a few of those settings and came out and got back in, and it seemed to work. But um, so I'm working on the patio, and it's got like a little deck porch on the back of it. And again, it's a mountain house, so it's actually like on stilts a lot of it. And this porch is actually like 10, 15 feet off the ground as it slopes down the mountain. And at the very beginning, there's a moment where I take out the sculpting tool. What is it called? The um, yeah, I guess it's just called the sculpting tool, like the ground sculpting tool. And I'm like gonna make the decision, like, do I want to try to create the mountainside? Like, do I want to go through all that and like create the big hill and the slope and then build off of it? And then I decided against it and was like, nope, let's just put it on a foundation and kind of get, again, the essence. I think I've said that word like 50 times, but this is my favorite part. I love landscaping and doing like the terrain paint and stuff. And again, it's in this town that kind of looks like where I live, and it's not uncommon for people to just kind of have like little pebble driveways. So even though this is like a beautiful estate home, modern cabin in the woods, I still just gave it like a little pebble driveway. Just one, because I ran out of space and didn't plan for it, but two, I think it just kind of fit, and put some little azaleas around and everything, and paint underneath the trees. And this is where it starts to like skip around a lot, and I'm kind of jumping around, so sorry if the video quality starts lagging a bit. And I didn't know who would be living here. Again, didn't plan on playing in it, but I put a little tree house and put a few lights and making sure that everything's where it needs to be. And soon I'll jump into the screenshots. Yeah. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my first video. If you have any recommendations of things that you would want to see, if you're one of those people that's like, oh my gosh, I missed The Sims 3 and would love to see this, like, leave me recommendations. I'd love to do them. I have a few other builds that I've started and I'm going to keep working on them. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and leave a like and comment down below and just enjoy the rest of the screenshots.